Hello everyone, this is part 2 of 2 in painting the model Beyond the Wall from Kingdom Death. Getting right into it, I paint a 1-to-1 mix of Abaddon Black and Mechanicus Standard Grey onto the dagger arm. I use Menoth white base on the scrap of clothing on the arm. I use Raskin Flesh to base coat the skin. With an even mix of Abaddon Black, Ratskin Flesh, and Mechanicus Standard Grey, I put on a highlighting layer onto the arm, keeping in mind where the light of the lantern will be hitting. Adding another part Ratskin Flesh to the mix, I highlight the arm further. With a 1-to-1 mix of Abaddon Black and Cantor Blue, I shade the arm. I highlight the fingers with a 1-to-1 mix of Menoth White Highlight and Kislev Flesh. I further highlight the fingers with just Menoth White Highlight. I then shade the fingers with Doombolt Brown. I then paint the handle of the knife with Rannoch's Hide. I layer on Menoth White Highlight onto the cloth as a highlight. Using Leadbelcher, I paint the metal of the knife and the armband. Going back to the body briefly, I paint a border onto the red cloth using Heartfire. Back to the dagger arm, I highlight the metal using Runefang Steel. I then shade the metal using Abaddon Black. I shade the piece of clothing with a 1-to-1 mix of Demonette Hide and Menoth White Highlight. Moving on to the lantern arm, I paint the arm and lantern with a 1-to-1 mix of Abaddon Black and Mechanicus Standard Grey. I paint the lantern light with a 1-to-1 mix of Heartfire and Menoth White Highlight. I then layer the light with just Menoth White Highlight. I blend a highlighting layer of an even mix of Abaddon Black, Mechanicus Standard Grey, and Ratskin Flesh. I further highlight the area by adding another part Ratskin Flesh to the mix, keeping in mind where the light of the lantern would hit. I highlight the fingers using a 1-to-1 mix of Kislev Flesh and Menoth White Highlight. Now that the light source is in the palm of the hand, I'm highlighting the sides of the fingers generally rather than the tops. I further highlight the fingers with pure Menoth White Highlight. The highlights are a bit too bright, so I darken the back of the fingers with Kislev Flesh. With Administratum Grey, I highlight the lantern. Moving on to the base, I coat it in Administratum Grey. I paint the knife bit with Leadbelcher, highlight it with Runefang Steel, and shade it with Abaddon Black. With Mechanicus Standard Grey, I trace the outlines of the bricks that form the wall. Using a 1-to-1 mix of Mechanicus Standard Grey and Administratum Grey, I shade the bricks, keeping in mind where the lantern's light will be hitting. Then, with a 1-to-1 mix of Administratum Grey and Menoth White Highlight, I highlight the bricks. I then finally assembled the model, being very careful in cutting off the pieces from the wire. Now that I'm able to shade without just approximating, I used Mechanicus Standard Grey to cast a shadow. With a 1-to-1 mix of Mechanicus Standard Grey and Abaddon Black, I darken the shadow, still keeping in mind where the shadows would be from the lantern. I also shade the bricks as well. In the areas of the base where the light would hit, I blend a layer of a 1-to-1 mix of Menoth White Highlight and Administratum Grey. Adding more Menoth White Highlight to the mix, I brighten the layer. Again, I add more Menoth White Highlight and brighten the layer. I fix the shading on the bricks with Mechanicus Standard Grey. With an even mix of Abaddon Black and Mechanicus Standard Grey, I further darken the shadows of the bricks in the base. With Abaddon Black, I paint the rim and back of the base. Moving on to the hair, I layer that area that would be affected by the light with Troll Slayer Orange. Using Heartfire, I highlight the strands of hair that are closest to the light. With Doombull Brown, I shade the other side of the hair. Because she's crying in the artwork, I wanted to give the eyes a watery look. Using gloss varnish, I paint the eyes and add some lines down the face to try and represent tears. Finishing off the base, I paint some blood on the knife using Wazdaka Red and highlight with Evil Sunz Scarlet. Finally, to finish off the model, I washed the boots with using Nuln Oil. And this concludes part 2 of painting Beyond the Wall. I realized that I need to work on my skills at painting semi-transparent clothing like stockings, and get some more experience in object source lighting. I also think I should have made the shading darker for the skin. Stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for watching.